Alex was a 35-year-old entrepreneur, successful by almost any standard, yet he felt a persistent emptiness, despite having everything most people only dream of. During a meditation retreat in Colorado, he met a well-known spiritual coach. One evening, Alex asked him, "Why do you say everyone can find meaning in life, but most people never do?" The coach smiled and gave him a simple challenge, one that would forever change the way Alex saw life. Alex wasn't new to the search for something deeper. After selling his first company at age 30, he'd spent years exploring the world, learning meditation in Bali, reading all the big self-help books, but the feeling of being lost never quite left. The Colorado retreat was just another step on that journey, a week-long getaway where people came to reset their minds, as the program described it. The coach, named Mason, was a man in his 60s. He used to be a psychiatrist before leaving medicine to pursue a path of spiritual guidance. He wasn't mystical or preachy, in fact, he was remarkably grounded and practical. That made Alex feel both comfortable and curious around him. That night, after a group sharing session around the campfire, Alex walked up to Mason with a question that had been stirring in him, part genuine curiosity, part challenge. "You say everyone can live a meaningful life," Alex said, "but the truth is, most people I know feel lost. If that potential is real, why are so many stuck, going in circles?" Mason looked at him for a moment, then said, "That's a great question. But instead of answering it, I have a challenge for you. Tomorrow, go ask 10 people at this retreat just one question. What do you truly want most in life? Write down their answers. Bring them to me tomorrow afternoon." Alex was caught off guard by the simplicity of the task, but agreed. After all, he enjoyed studying people, and this sounded interesting enough. What he didn't expect was how deeply the responses would affect him, or how closely they would mirror the quiet emptiness he carried inside. The next morning, he began approaching people around the retreat, folks from all walks of life. A 42-year-old nurse recently divorced, a burned-out startup investor on sabbatical, a single artist from New York, a single mother seeking peace, and many others. Everyone was open, willing to share. But what struck Alex the most was this: not one person said they were searching for truth, enlightenment, or the meaning of life. What they wanted was far more grounded: peace, love, health, freedom, success. Alex wrote every answer carefully in his notebook, but inside, something had begun to stir, a quiet shift, like he was getting closer to something he had long overlooked. The next afternoon, Alex returned to the campfire area, where Mason was sitting quietly, reading a book. In his hand was the notebook, filled with the responses of the 10 people he had spoken to. He handed it to Mason, feeling a little nervous, like he was turning in an assignment to a teacher he genuinely respected. Mason skimmed through the pages, nodding slowly. Then he looked up and asked, "So tell me, do you think anyone on this list truly wants to find truth or some deeper meaning in life?" Alex was silent. The question cut straight into him. He flipped through the answers again. "I want peace of mind. I want to love and be loved. I want financial independence. I want to be accepted. I want the freedom to be myself." All of them were valid. sincere, even profound in their own way. But none of them mentioned truth, enlightenment, or meaning. Quietly, Alex replied, "No. No one mentioned that." Mason smiled gently, as if Alex had just crossed an invisible threshold of awareness. "You see," he said, "I never said everyone would find meaning. I said everyone has the capacity to. But having the capacity doesn't mean having the desire. And without the desire, there's no action." Alex sat still, struck by the weight of the words. Mason continued, "If I asked you, can you run a marathon? The accurate answer would be, yes, if you train. But the real question is, do you want to? That's the part most people skip. Most people don't really want truth. They want comfort. They want safety. They want recognition. None of those are wrong, but they're not the same as seeking truth. And truth, whether it's about life, self, or the universe, only comes to those who crave it enough to pursue it, no matter the cost." Alex sat in silence. That last sentence struck something deep. For years, he had read books, gone to seminars, meditated, traveled the world. But maybe, just maybe, he had never truly asked himself, do I really want to know the truth? Or am I just running from the emptiness? Mason's voice softened. You've come a long way on your journey. But if you're not clear on what you're really seeking, you'll keep wandering, changing environments, partners, jobs, and still feel like something's missing. He looked Alex in the eyes. Truth doesn't come because we deserve it, it comes because we desire it more than anything else. Alex didn't say a word. But something inside him had shifted, not through explanation, but through silence. For the first time, he understood that truth isn't something you stumble upon. It's a choice. A choice few are truly willing to make. That evening, Alex sat alone on the wooden porch, overlooking the quiet valley. There was no soft music, no laughter or chatter from other retreat participants. Only the wind and the steady hum of thoughts echoing in his mind. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the need to pretend he was on a journey of discovery. He began to understand what Mason had been pointing to all along, that for so long, he'd been chasing experiences that looked like seeking, but he had never truly committed to himself, never once said, I want the truth. At any cost. He thought back to the conversations he'd had with others at the retreat, all of them sincere, all of them yearning for something. But no one had spoken of a desire to understand the true nature of who they were. Everyone wanted to ease the pain, but no one dared to go to the root of it. The next morning, Alex returned to find Mason. Gone was the polished, sharp confidence that came so naturally in business settings. His eyes had softened, as if, for the first time, he was okay with not knowing where he was going. I think I understand now, he said quietly. Not everyone finds the truth, because not everyone wants it. Including me, until now. Mason nodded, his eyes warm. That's the first step, he said. When the desire becomes real, that's when the door begins to open. But Alex hesitated. How do I know if I'm on the right path? It feels like there's no map. Mason smiled. There's no universal map, you're right. But there is one compass. Truth never lies. If something makes you feel lighter, more honest with yourself, less performative, that's a sign. It's not an easy path, but it's the real one. He added, the world doesn't block people from finding truth. It just keeps inviting them with more pleasant alternatives, comfort, success, attention, the illusion of control. And unless someone deeply longs for something beyond all that, they'll never walk past the invitation. Alex sat in silence, listening. And he knew this wasn't the last conversation with Mason, it was just the beginning. He didn't have a plan. But he had something more important now, an inner commitment. That from this moment on, he would live by a truer question. Not how do I succeed, but what is real? He was beginning to see that truth isn't found through effort, but through a choice. The choice to go deeper, to face what is, and not turn away. In the days that followed, Alex stopped seeking in the way he used to. No more hurried note-taking, no more pressuring himself to figure something out. Instead, he began to listen. He listened to conversations, to nature, and, most importantly, to the silence within himself. And for the first time, he realized, most of the time before, he hadn't been truly listening, he had been reacting, analyzing, trying to fix. One morning during the early meditation session, Mason came and quietly sat beside him. He didn't say a word, just sat. When the session ended, Mason turned to him and asked, "Did you notice anything different?" Alex nodded. I realized I was never missing a path. I just never stepped onto it with sincerity. Mason smiled. Exactly. There's no right or wrong path. There's only the path that's truly yours. And it doesn't reveal itself all at once, it unfolds, step by step, when you walk it with honesty. But, Alex hesitated. I used to think there was just one path, one right way to truth, to happiness. Now it seems, each person has their own direction? Mason nodded. That's because truth isn't some external destination. It's the process of peeling away the false layers we've wrapped around ourselves. Each person wears different armor. Each person fears different things. The path is personal, but the truth is shared. It makes us less performative, less divided within. Alex thought back to all the times he had tried to be better, wiser, more awakened, only to end up exhausted and still feeling like he wasn't enough. Now he understood, those efforts came from pressure, not from genuine longing. Truth never comes from the feeling that you have to be someone, Mason said, almost reading his thoughts. It only comes when you have the courage to be no one and begin from there. That line stopped Alex cold. To be no one. That had once been his greatest fear, losing his name, his recognition, his accomplishments. But now, he was beginning to see, It was those very things that had chained him, blinding him from seeing who he really was. From that day forward, things began to change. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, deeply. Alex began to live differently. No more trying to impress. No more need to inspire. No more answering every question with polished certainty. Instead, he chose truth in small, daily ways. In how he ate. In how he spoke. In how he responded. In how he listened to others and to himself. And he came to understand. There is no power outside that can bring him to truth if he doesn't choose it from within. And no obstacle outside that can stop him once he truly commits. A few weeks after the retreat ended, Alex returned to the city. Life there was still loud, fast-paced, filled with people rushing as if a place called peace had never existed. But Alex was no longer the same. He hadn't become enlightened, nor did he try to present himself as some awakened version of who he was. Instead, he had become something far rarer. More honest, starting with himself. Each morning, instead of reaching for his phone to check emails, Alex sat in stillness for a few quiet minutes. Not to meditate mechanically, but to ask himself, what is true for me today? That question became a compass, guiding his daily choices. From saying no to a business deal that didn't align with his values, to picking up the phone to call his mom and say, "I miss you," instead of sending a quick, empty text. He didn't abandon the world of business. But how he worked began to shift. He no longer built from ambition, but from clarity. No longer chased recognition, but sought meaning. No longer asked, "What will people think?" Instead, he asked, "Am I being true to myself?" A few close friends noticed the change. They asked, "What did you do these past few weeks? You seem different." Alex simply smiled and replied, "I didn't do anything special. I just started wanting something real." He had come to see that most people don't live wrong because they don't know what's right, but because they've never paused long enough to sincerely ask, "What do I truly want?" And if the answer is truth, not comfort, not success, not praise, then the path begins to reveal itself. Not all at once, not perfectly, but surely. One evening, Alex sat down to write in his journal. The last line he wrote was, "If you truly want the truth, not as a beautiful idea, but as an unshakable desire, then nothing in this universe can stop you. But if you don't truly want it, then no one can give it to you." That line wasn't originally his. It was what Mason had once said. And now, Alex understood it not as a quote, but through lived experience. In the end, Alex didn't become someone else. He simply returned to himself. In a way that was simpler, more honest, and fully alive. And in that simplicity, he found what he had spent years thinking was somewhere far away: the true meaning of life.